welcome to Tuesday's daily vlog. Here we are, slightly a day late as you know, been up to the north of England, or is it Midlands, Middle, East, West, I don't know, everywhere seems a long way from here. It's about a 750, 780 mile round trip for us to make it from down here in South Devon, which is the very southern bit of England, all the way up there. It was a bit cold, it was a bit blowy, and it was grim up north, but it was definitely well worth it. It was great to hang out with Steve, being in Steve's man cave. You could do with this tidy up, Steve. Terrible. You make me look positively spotless and everything else. But it was great to go out there. We had some fantastic days out. Went out in York. Then obviously we were at the Huddersfield show. It was amazing to meet so many of that came up, said hello. It was a bit. I was trying to go a little bit incognito, so I don't know if you noticed, but I kept the coat on all the time because you know we didn't have a stand there, and I didn't want to make a big fuss of it. But it's great to have so many of you come up and have a chat. And speaking about the different changes we made recently and how you're enjoying the more relaxed style of it, and hopefully as of next week we'll be even more relaxed as well, because obviously Mel's back on board full time. We're going to talk about what her role is now, how you guys are interacting with her directly, which frees me up to stay in here. I'll be penned up in here from now on and everything else. And as the other staff members join us over the consecutive months, the roles that they're going to be fulfilling and what they'll be doing with us and everything else like that. Have to say as well, nice to meet Lenny. A load of you said you've got to see Lenny. Lenny's going to be there. Lenny from R2B Models. Or RTB Models I should say, on Facebook. Absolutely fantastic guy, top guy Lenny, and don't panic mate, I'll get those bits off to you very, very shortly. So today, to be honest, sorting everything out. We ran out last week of a particular type of sander. They're now back in stock, so if you haven't had your order last week, they are all going to go out today. So what I'm going to do is spend a good couple of hours up there getting up to date with all the orders, because you got to imagine we had a little bit of a backlog last week with me trying to keep up with it. Then we've been away for 4 days, so we've got all of those orders, so we're going to do those. So what I'm going to do now, it's coming up for sort of 9:45. I'm going to then do those, get them sorted out the way, we can get them off to the post office, and then the orders sort of, you know, technically today's and things like that, I'll do tomorrow. So there'll be a slight delay as we play a little bit of catch up. The other thing that is here, we'll talk about it this afternoon as well, is all your medals are here. So what I'll do is I'll make an announcement in the forum on how you can get your address to me and all the things like that, and those will all go out this week as well. I'm sorry they're late. I'm hoping to get it all sorted by Friday, and then on Friday we'll do the final reveal video for it, for the Big in Japan group build that finished last year, and that will then sort of tidy up. All the loose ends are sort of all coming together, which is absolutely great. And again, it's Tuesday tool day, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the camera out and I'm going to show you what's on my desk. To be honest, I will have a bit of a clear out because it's a dump completely, but we'll use the big camera like we've done before, and I'm going to show you everything that is on my little sticky out bit of the bench. I'll show you the overview of it, why I use it, the different types of workstations I got on here. Then we can talk about the paint racks, the tools that are all roughly dotted around here, which are my sort of go-to hand tools for immediately right off of the bat, and we'll go through. And then I had every intention of, you can probably see it just behind me over there, the orange box, which is the paint shaker. Not sure if I have time for it, but if I haven't, I will get it done this week, and it'll be part of the tool review. Okay, so it might go up with you Thursday, but we're going to do that. We're going to compare shaking mixers with stirring mixers and good old-fashioned agitators in bowls, and just have a little bit of a comparison, spend a morning having a play with that, and we'll make our way through with it. Part 5 of the A10, which is here, went up with you yesterday. Okay, I did put that up. To be honest, I had it somewhat in editing, a sort of rough version of it, and I went and finished that off, and we got back around about 3:30 yesterday, and that went up with you yesterday afternoon. So if you are wondering, if you haven't been on the Flory model site, there is the other part of the A10 that went up with you yesterday. You can watch that today. All right, so time to get on. Hello and welcome to Tool Time Part 2. So this particular one, we're going to look at this area. Now obviously it's quite important, it's the work area, it's where the magic happens, but also it's got a lot of the tools which are sort of the ones I sort of just grab and go with. So generally working around here, what we're going to do is have a look at some of the things. I can show you in detail camera because I've got the overhead camera working as well, so that way we can see round. So starting off, obviously the paint rack. It's a big part of my setup that I've had for the last 10 years. I've had this paint rack, and it's one of those things where I can't remember where I saw it. It wasn't my idea. I'm not taking the sort of the thing for that one, but I saw one of the guys somewhere. Probably it was before YouTube. You know, this would have been around about sort of 2002, 2003. Had something similar to this, and I thought, what a great way of doing paints, because like everybody else, I used to have them in drawers. I used to have pull-out drawers, and I'd have them and have to write on the top of each bottle and everything else like that. But the thing is, having it this way, twofold. One, it's easy to see what you've got at a glance. Secondly, it's easy to see, perhaps not so much with Guns and Tamiya, but everybody else is exactly how much paint you've got as well. So it just makes finding paint, locating them far easier. So up at the top, you can see we've basically got metallizers running around up there. So we've got your pretty much your standard ones. I'll just grab one of each and I can show you what we've got. So these are my go-to for hand painting metals, or pretty heavy metal colours. These are absolutely beautiful. So this is Mr. Metal Colour. Now they've got various shades, starting off with basically a black that looks like a polished iron by the end of it. Okay, right the way up to, obviously we've got stainless here, we've got stainless steel, we've got chrome, you've got various silvers, you name it, you've got it, all the different ones in between. The great thing about these is they are brilliant for airbrushing and hand painting. Some of them could be a little bit finicky if you're trying to hand paint them. This, best of both worlds. So if you've got a little bit you want to do, you put it down. The only thing you have to remember, this isn't a straightforward put the paint down, it dries, and that gives you a silver effect. These are buffable. So what this actually means is they dry extremely flat, then you need to polish them up. So just remember to mask around the area, otherwise you're going to end up with a staining it all with the dust that comes off of this. Really, really handy stuff to have. Highly recommend it. I've been a fan with it since the day, I think it was MDC gave me a bottle to try. Loved it from that day, and it's just one of those things I've had now staple, you know, of my paint range all the way through. Even though other paints have come and go, I still love this one. Okay, so next up across the top there, I've got the entire range of these guys. So this is AK's Extreme Metal. These things are absolutely lovely. These were sort of the first of the new breed that came out last year, where they're very easy to use, some great colours, and they're strong as well. By strong means you can handle them and you don't wear through them like other manufacturers and things like that. Yes, they had a problem when they first came out. A lot of their paints weren't very good. We had problems with them, but luckily AK put their hand up and they were like, right, we're sorry, we've got a problem, we're going to fix it. And certainly if you're a Flory Models member and you had a problem, you were extremely well looked after with freebie magazines, paint sets, etc, etc. So really, I cannot fault them. It's great to have a company that has seen there's a problem with their product, and instead of just burying their head in the sand like all too many do these days, quite frankly, they will know we've got a problem, we're going to fix it, just let us know and we will take care of you. And they did a fantastic job. Again, these are really, really nice. They go down so easy. I know we've got other paints that have come and gone, but really if you're a newbie looking to sort of get into the thing of using metallizer paints, things like that, these are really easy to work with. They spray down easier than anybody else's I know out there. So there we go, that is the AK Extreme Metals. As I said, got the full set of those. Then we got your standard Tamiya colours. Tamiya, let's face it, they were my first ever acrylic paint. Like many of you, I was Humbrol. I'm in the UK, it's our bread and butter, brought up as a kid. When I moved into it properly in the early 90s and wanted to sort of, you know, experiment with new things, Tamiya was the big thing at that point, and it was a case of, right, okay, we're going to get some Tamiya paints. And I remember going down to my local shop and buying these, and I think they were something like 80p back then, and you could go down and buy these bottles. They used to do a bigger version as well. I think it was 24mm bottles, the bigger one of it, but again, they were really nice. And then from airbrushing point of view, they were the big jump for me. I went from airbrushing and painting generally enamels to in 2000 making the switch completely to acrylics. All right, I've gone back now, but that's another story. But generally it is that thing where if you are learning airbrushing and you want to make things as easy as possible, then these are definitely the way to go. Purely because if you use their thinners, X20A in this count, 50-50 mix, spraying anything between 12 to 18 psi, you're going to get good results. It is that straightforward. Their paints, no matter what colour you use, all spray exactly the same. It doesn't matter if you're using gloss or the flats and everything else like that. The other thing that I love about them as well is obviously you're well catered for a colour range. Now, so obviously World War II, anything that you're going to buy from Tamiya, it's going to have the codes and it's straightforward, easy to use. There is problems, there is gaps in it. The modern range of perhaps US Air Force colours, things like that, there's big gaps in it, but that's why we move for other products and things like that. But generally World War II specifically, American, European, obviously UK, Japanese colours, things like that, you've got no problem at all. You're good to go with those. But generally they're a good, safe bet. They go really, really well. And one little thing, and I've got to see if I can find it around here now, and what we've done with it. If you've ever had trouble painting, or hand painting should I say, Tamiya, have a go with a little bit of retarder in it. This is actually Vallejo's retarder medium. We'll speak more about it when we get into the actual airbrushing section. It's like a gel, goes in and it gives you beautiful finish. No paint, you don't drag it around, you literally paint this stuff on like you would an enamel, and it works really well. So that's what these really need to go through. But again,
I grew up on these. This is that smell where you walk into a room, I can smell this stuff. It's sort of like a childhood smell that you've always got that smell that you remember. It's definitely that one. Very, very nice paint to have. Then you can see we got all the way down here the MRP paints. Now MRP paints we've been hyping along around really for the last sort of 12 months. They've taken the sort of modelling world by storm. The modelling world, frankly, is scrambling now to produce something very similar to this, and I'm sure we're going to be flooded with it. This is technically a lacquer-based paint. It's very nasty, it stinks, but it dries instantly and it's like spraying an ink. So you've got all those bonuses, i.e. if you're using an acrylic, you get spitting, stopping, starting, you know, cleaning out your airbrush, things like that. Let's face it, if you're going to be going in there with something like this with, you know, a lacquer-based paint, it's just going to flow all day long because it doesn't dry and lock up and gum up like you'll get with some paints. I love these things. I love the colour, I love the simplicity of them, I love the way they dry, I love the way that you don't really need to seal them, so forth and so on. And that's why I must admit I've been sort of championing them for the last year. They are my definite recommendation as a paint. It doesn't matter if you're a newbie to the hobby or an old hat at it, you will love these paints purely because they are easy. You just need to get that thing over your head that yes, it is a lacquer-based paint. So go out and get yourself an extractor. It doesn't have to be an expensive one. Anything that draws those fumes out and get them out of your environment. Okay, that's all you need to do, but definitely a bit of a must. Working our way down then, we've got my old favourite, which really was the sort of game changer after Tamiya, and that is Vallejo Model Air. The great thing again with these is you can just go ahead and put these straight into your colour cup, mix them up really well, squirt them in your colour cup and spray it, and they will go down and give you a beautiful finish to your actual paintwork. The range, again, goes on and on now. Any colour you need, it's right there. But these were the first pre-thinned, ready-to-go acrylic paints that I used, and I fell in love with them. And again, I've been using them now for the last, I don't know, 10 years, and love them totally. They are definitely a go-to. I don't use them as much as I used to because, to be honest, times change. I tend to be spraying a lot more sort of lacquer-based paints these days, but I will keep them there. They are my go-to paints, and I do. The only thing I'm not particularly a fan of, if I'm honest, is the bottles. The dropper types, I just find that you don't get a proper mix. You need to get in there, get them mixed up very, very well. You get some heavy sort of pigment in the bottom. It can be a little bit of a nightmare with your paints and everything else like that. So that is my paints. I have got others, as you know. I've got the guns range. I've got, you know, about 10 different varieties of paint, but nothing I can put out in a full rack because I don't cover the entire range. These ones, though, are my go-to paints that we use right now. Moving along, to be honest, right over there, I have a tally, which I don't know if you can see just the edge of it. You might be able to see yourself, but it is literally just here. Okay, I'll show you in a minute when we move the camera around. That is a 27-inch monitor. It's actually the computer. What I'm using is the computer's capture card off of the cameras. That's how it all works. You see, we've got capture cards inside the computers. They take the standard HDMI high-res 1080p at 60 frames, puts it through the computer, that's the output, and that's how I see exactly what's going on. I've got it on a turntable so I can swivel it when I'm in computer mode, put it over here, but also I can put the TV through it and all the other things just like that. So really, it's just a handy thing to have. And the great thing is when I'm working, I can see what you guys see. So instead of seeing the top of my head, and I still know that happens, but it sort of gets rid of all that problem. And again, I can put up on there 4 different views if I want to, from 4 different cameras all at once, so that way I can see which is the best feed, and that way it cuts down the little bit of editing, because instead of having to go through them all, I can see what it is just there and do it all on the fly. We got just various things you can see down here. Battery packs. These are USB powered ones, so if I want to run the cameras, things like that on the fly, giant batteries and everything else. This box you see down in here, this is the HDMI switcher box. It's a straightforward, it's a 6 cameras go into that one out, it goes through. You've got buttons on the top, but also have a remote for it, so I can change to different cameras for full screen whilst we're on the fly. Dead handy thing to have, okay? Airbrush stand. To be honest, I'm going to do airbrushing when the next one we're going to move over to the spray bay. We'll be looking at that bit more in depth, but that's all my airbrushes you can see down there. I have, to be honest, in this little tub here, this is talcum powder. Okay, no, it's not white pigment, it's actually talcum powder. If you saw me, old school, I know, but it worked well, A10. I needed some quick super glue in. Put a little bit of talc in it, makes it easy to sand, and also it keeps it as a lump. So you can mix it up like concrete, so you've got like a ball of it, press it into the area. It doesn't flow off and go where you don't want it. It keeps it located in one spot. Old school tip, still use it right the way today. Obviously, as you can imagine, I have got a few of our products. So I've got our entire pigment range down in here. Use them all the time. We spoke about it before. I'm not going to harp on with it. We've also got obviously the full set of the Flory Models washes. As a Mikio, obviously I do use our own stuff. Down in front here we've got various hold and fold type things. So this one here is the Master Tools one. It's completely reversible, so I was using those gun trains when we were doing the A10, so we put the big one on, but technically you would spin this round and you can put it around this way then to use all the little ones. Again, this is Trumpeter's own tool range called Master Tools. Half the price of other people's, shall we say, works just as well. Bonus every time. Okay, really nice, good quality, works very well. I have got it in 2 flavors, so we've got a small one, okay, and we've got a big one. They do a medium one in between this as well, so depending on your budget or the type of projects you work on, you can do it. Hold and folds or this type of thing in general are one of those things where you'll probably never have one, and then one day you'll get one and it's like a dishwasher at home. You'll wonder how you ever lived without it, because it's just one of those things. You grab it, it holds it, it's easy folds, just makes in boxes, complex shapes so much easier when you've got one, okay? Then, as we make our way around for our various things, micro set, and I should have the other one here somewhere. He said, and I can't actually see it. But you've got the red one and the white one. Don't know what I've done with the other one. It must be around somewhere. Which are my setting solutions for doing decals. That's my preferred one. Obviously, this is the first one you put down. So, you know, at the end of the day, you can actually put that one on and away you go with it. All right, and it's the red one is the one that does all the work, if you like, puts it in. Recently, to be honest, I've been using X28 again. Just find it works quite well. Fixing down canopies, doing windows, all those types of things. I must admit, I do love this stuff. Again, it's micro scale crystal clear. If you're doing those little windows, you just put it in, a bit of white in there. We've done it with airliners, we've done it with big projects. You might remember we even did it with a Dolphin, the helicopter. We did the entire window with it. That's the biggest thing I've ever done, and it still worked absolutely fine, so no problem with that at all. So they're my go-to fixing. So if you're putting canopies down, all things like that, that's absolutely fine. On the same note, although I've just noticed it's going very yellow at the top, isn't it? We've got down here, you can probably see that. If you can, hopefully you can see that. It's very yellow around there, so you have to watch. But this is Deluxe Materials card glue. If you're doing any type of thin PVA work, stuff like that, this has got great grip, dries really, really quickly. Okay, so it's a very thin PVA glue, for want of a better thing. But it's called card glue. If you are doing paper and stuff like that, then obviously it'll work fantastically, but it says it works with wood, plastics and everything else, so as you can imagine, pretty handy thing to have. The other thing that's nice with this one, it's got a nice little top. There you go, you can probably see how brown that is up there. It's obviously got a bit of an issue with it yellowing, so I'm glad I don't use it with canopies. So that's the thing with that one. Right, okay, little tip, there is the micro sole, 40mm Tamiya tape. This stuff, you knock it over, you lose the lot. 40mm Tamiya tape, just little pots, holds it, stops it going out everywhere. So really handy thing to have. Okay, we've got a couple of versions of masking fluids. These are both beautiful ones. Okay, so what we've got is my original one, which is the Mr. Hobby Masking Sol Neo. Okay, and this is the Masking Sol R. Now, really, they're basically the same thing. They're just a masking fluid. This one over here, Sol R, though, you can cut it and it doesn't drag. So this one is almost like a more industrial version. And if you can probably see, this one here is very green all the way through. This one, as you can see, is only green down the bottom, and then the rest of it is all like white further up you go. I think it's just a stronger version of, but they work generally just the same. If you're painting it on, they'll work the same, but you can actually cut it. So if you wanted to do an entire canopy, put it right the way over, brush it over the entire thing, let it dry, and then you can cut it with a knife and do it that way. You can also do masking with it and stuff like that if you wanted to. Down here, we've got some of the little cement. This is the Tamiya different cement. I get sent these time to times where people say, have you seen? This is just the old school Tamiya cement, okay? We'll look at those, we'll go through them now, to be honest. But this is the sort of general orange one. I don't know, is this the smell? No, this is just your normal standard poly glue, if you like, the liquid form. Humber will make it, everyone tends to make it, okay? This is their one as well, so it's your standard type of cement, okay? Next up to that one, which I use as well, we've got this one, which is the Tamiya normal cement, but it's known as the white top. This one is like got an acrylic into it. The only thing I've done is change the brush over. I've put a smaller brush onto it, but generally very nice indeed. Then you've got your standard Tamiya extra thin glue. These are all sort of hot action, world action glues, okay? And then we've got the quick drying one as well. So we've actually got that one down there. My new favourite one at the moment, and as I say, I will do a proper one, is this stuff, okay, which is Deluxe Materials Plastic Magic. The thing I love about it, I'm working on a big kit at the moment, the A10. This gives you that time. Extra thin, you put it on, it dries, it's gone instantly, which is great because you don't make wet fingerprints and all the rest of it. If you need something with a little bit more work time, as in only about a minute, then I'm liking this stuff. This works really well. This is more akin to sort of these two down here, if you like, okay? Doesn't have the greatest capillary action like perhaps the extra thins where you can just touch it and it zips off, okay, because it is a little bit thicker, but it's thinner than these two. These two are quite thick. This is thinner. It's sort of, if you were doing the sort of evolution tree, this is where you would go with it. This would sit in here, but this has the sort of jack of all trades of both of these and these. So if you wanted one bottle, that's what you would go for. So definitely handy to have those types of glues just for different things really at the end of the day. As we're looking at those bottles, we've also got down here is a bottle of surface primer. Okay, this is literally like you will find, I don't think I've actually got one here, but we looked at it before, is when we were using things like Mr. Surfacer for gap filler work and stuff like that. It's exactly the same. You can thin this stuff, a little bit of lacquer thinners, and you can spray it down as a primer as well. But I must admit, I've got a brush in mine, which I don't know if it comes with it. I can't remember if it came with it, but you can put a brush into it if it doesn't, like I've done here, and that way it's just clean, crisp, precise application of where you need it. Downside to it is a hot action. It's going to melt your plastic a little bit, so you have to wait for it to totally dry. So again, if you're a little bit like me and you can't be sort of want to hang around with it all, you want something a bit quicker, then fair enough. At the same time, we got these. We spoke about these all the time. This is my homebrew, you know, gloop, I think people call it. I think, you know, you can't really call it glue. Mine's a little bit more high-tech than that. This is extra thin because I think it works the best out of all the hot actions, you know, TET and stuff like that. And also, instead of using sprue, which is notoriously soft in its own estate, I use a good quality plastic card, chop it up into little cubes, chuck it in here, get it to the thickness you want, away you go. If it's too thin, add more sprue sheet or plastic card sheet. If it's too thick, add a little bit more extra thin to it till you get the consistency you like. To be honest, I've got two flavors of it here. I've got one which is a big thick one, and I've got one that's a little bit more runny, but I use them for filler jobs because it will self-level, okay, and away you go. So no problem with those. Clever putty. We spoke about this quite a lot. We've seen it in recent builds as well with this stuff. This is that Panzer putty, but this is Clever putty, and because it hasn't got a company name on it or anything else, it's really, really cheap. Totally reusable. You can do it just the same as everything else. You do this thing, if you're quick with it, it snaps, but you can roll this stuff up, put it into a tack worm, stick it onto your model. The great thing is as well, it will sink in a little bit, and away you go, and you're good to go. And that way, once you finish with it, you just chuck it all in here. And to be honest, I've done loads of stuff with this now, and it just will absorb into itself all the nasties and everything else, and you end up with it. The great thing with this as well is it's fun stuff to play with. So you can do things like, it's actually like a rubber. It's one of these things, if you do it really quick and it snaps. If you do it slowly, the molecular structure of it means it just pulls apart, and obviously if you warm it up. But the weird stuff with this is, it sort of self-levels, so if you make a dome of it like that, and you put it there, by the end of this it will be and gone soft. So it's interesting stuff to have. But again, it's one of those things. Some people prefer the real things. You can use white tack for it, so forth and so on, which is one thing I can't see in front of me. Right, other things we have down here, ink. Okay, so this is your normal sort of Indian ink, very strong stuff. You can use it for washes, for shadow work, everything else like that. We've spoken about it a lot. You can thin it with various things, airbrush cleaner, or just water to dilute it and stuff like that. Really handy thing to have. We've also got some here. I've got some more brownie stuff, which I tend to use for oils, for a more oily colour as well. So that's a Winsor & Newton one. We've got the MRP Mr. Filler, which is liquid putty. To be honest, I didn't really like it. It's very old school. It's no different from anybody else's liquid putty. To be honest, they sent it to me as a freebie to test, but I didn't really get on with it. It's no different from anybody else's. Okay, these little guys, really, really cheap. Okay, these are those tiny little brushes, which micro brushes will charge you, I don't know, like a £5 for 4 or something else like that. Or you can pay £1.99 for 100, free shipping out of China. Actually, what these are is eyebrow glue applicators. That's what they are. And to be honest, the reason we've got white and green is that we've got 2 different types in here. If I can get a white one, I can show you. And I think I split a pack with Sid. So we got half each, but you might see one's got a long, one's got more of a bush on the end, one's a more of a pointy one. Great little things. You can bend these things as well into a sort of funny shape if you want to, just to get into those areas. Again, it's one of those little tools where, amazingly, when you remember you've got them, you use them all the time. But all too often, you're there scrambling for cocktail sticks to put glue on. If you use those, you'll be absolutely fine with it. The other thing MRP sent me at the same time as they sent me this stuff was their welder. It's no different from TET and all the rest of it. It's just your standard glue. I did try it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just it's in a nightmare bottle that's likely to fall over, and I prefer using the other ones if I'm honest. It's very thin. It's a bit smelly, but generally it's just a hot action weld action glue, the same as sort of anyone would have. Debonder, which goes along with my super glue. So this is my Zap medium glue. To be honest, the label's fallen off. We speak about these a lot. Always have a bottle of debonder with it, not only in case you stick yourself to the bench, but it's handy because what you can actually do, put it onto a cotton bud, this stuff, and just rub it on the plastic of your model to get rid of the excess. So if you put it on and it's squirted off and it's dried, you can just give it a wipe with a cotton bud and it'll clean up all your little areas. But it's also handy having it because, as we know, I've got a scar here from, I used to have, not on this one, but I used to always have a square here where I'd put super glue, and I'd do that thing of saying cotton bud or a toothpick, pick up a little bit, put it on your model, and I did this one day, very intricate, and when I went to take my hand off, I'd stuck myself to here. No debonder, so I had to cut myself free of it, and I've still got the scar to this day, and that was years and years and years ago. Okay, debonder is your friend. Definitely a handy thing to have when it's floating around. Right, cotton buds, obviously, as modelers, we've all got cotton buds. They are just that standard handy thing. I use Johnson's. Yes, I'm a snob, but it is that thing, quality over quantity. They are a quality product, okay? That's just more white glue if we're there. Okay, perfect plastic putty. Deluxe materials again, it's not a thread for them, I just like their products. They work really, really well. Water-based putty, easy, quick job, put it down, wipe it off with a cotton bud, just lick a cotton bud and you can wipe it away, you're good to go. Dries really quickly, no problem. It shrinks, it's the same as everybody else's, but it's still quite a handy thing to have. Steve's tried to get me into this. This is the Mr. Mark Setting Neo. Okay, I haven't got the green one. I've tried it, I don't get on with it. I don't know why, but I just prefer my way of doing it. And like I say to everybody, everybody has their own way of doing things. It's what works for you. So don't let anybody tell you it should be a certain way. Ink, that's the same thing, just a little bottle of ink. Cocktail sticks, everybody should have cocktail sticks. Everyone needs cocktail sticks. Okay, other things I have around here, which I'm looking for, which should cover into this. Kicker, okay, this instantly sets, obviously, your CA glue and all those things, your super glue, crazy glue. Squirt it on, it then goes. 2 things you have to watch out for it though. One is obviously it will craze it slightly, so it tends to go a bit white. Secondly, you will get a chemical reaction. It will get extremely hot and you get smoke coming off of it if you overdo it. So if you put it down into somewhere, it could heat up the plastic and melt the plastic. But the reason I like this particular brand, the Vital Bond one, is you can spray this right over your finished model and it won't mark it. If you use things like Zapper Gap Kicker, stuff like that, it goes white afterwards. This one is totally clean, okay? It comes in a pump bottle or can. It's not actually an aerosol, it's a pump one, so you do have to pump it to get it coming out. Sometimes a bit tricky to get hold of, I'll be honest, and I need to get some because this is my last bit. I've got about 1/4 of a can down there, which I've been nursing over the last few months. But again, really handy thing to have on there. The other staple things I have on my desk at all time are these. These are my cutters. There's a full review on these. These are the Citadel ones. Extremely expensive. In fact, we're talking stupidly expensive, but God, they really, really work. I've been using them now for the last 6 months or so. Absolutely love them. And now, after all these years, I'm almost retiring these guys, which are my orange scissors. These have been great. Friskus, you know me, and a lot of people know me for Mr. Hands with orange scissors. These are the same scissors from the first day I ever put a video on the internet back in 2001. these are the same. They're great. They just carry on for absolute ever. And as you know, I'll cut wire with it, decals with it, plastic with it, but they still keep going. Really, really think. And they definitely still have the part, because when I do photo etch, I still use these all the time. But if I'm removing sprues, parts from sprues, I do use the proper cutters now. Other little tool goes with the cutter is this, which is a deburring tool. Again, quite a handy little thing to have running around. We have got other things up there we'll have a look at in a moment, but that's a very nice one. For a knife, I use a disposable one like this. So this has got the little blades on. You just snap off the bit you want. I've got replacement Olaf blades in here, you can see. The reason I use this and not a craft knife is purely because I am a nightmare and I will cut myself to death. I am the biggest accident klutz you could ever imagine. Okay, so moving it down on this side, you can see we've got various spring-loaded tweezers, clamps, forceps, smaller things. I'll just get all of these off so I can show you. Okay, so first of all, these scissors, okay, which are the little mini ones, you can see here, I've got one curved and I've got one normal. These are actually what they call decoupage. Scissors. They're designed for cutting paper very, very cleanly and neatly. The thing is with them though is that they are great for cutting decals. Even if you remove the decal from the backing, you can just slice the film and they go through it. That's why I keep these. Spring-loaded clamps, let's face it, it's a little bit of an upgrade from, you know, basically using clothing pegs and stuff like that, but they are absolutely invaluable for modelling. So the more you can use, you can get, the better. Don't buy, was it Shesto ones or Tamiya? Get the cheapy ones. They all do the same thing roughly. Okay, and these are next to each other. This is a cheap one and this is an expensive Tamiya one. They do exactly the same thing, but they're reverse action, so they actually clamp on the let go instead of squeezing together. Okay, so it's just reverse action tweezers. Really handy to have. I've got smaller ones down on here, which Ian sent me over from Canada, which are really handy because they've got a nice little end on there and they sit quite nicely. And then good old-fashioned normal tweezers. You need them. That's it, it's as simple as that. Then if you wanted to, forceps, these are lock-on ones, so they've got the little teeth down here, so you can put the part in, okay, and then you can just lightly put one little click on just to hold it, okay, in place, or you can like ratchet it up to really get a grip on it, but it's in there now and that isn't going to go anywhere. So if you've got something that's always refusing to go together, locking forceps, they are the way of making sure it never moves again. Deburring tools, something that's new to me over the last year or two. Never used them before in my life. Was introduced to them by John at Models Are Go. Had a look online. You see a lot of the Japanese modelers use them. They are my go-to tool now. I use one, if not all the time, but certain ones pretty much every single week. Okay, this is my new one. It looks like a Ninja Star, but it's great for scraping out. We used it on the A10 because it's got these different sizes, curves and that. You can scoop out things. So ejection pin molds into air intakes. You pop this in, scrape it along, scrape clean it, never fill it again. And then this one's got all different curves in it and things like that for taking out any type of shapes you could ever need to, things like that. And then to be honest, this one over here, we've got another one which has got right angles on, so you can actually change the shape and angles of flat pieces of plastic. So think about if you're using like I-beams, if you're doing scratch building, things like that, you can change the shape of them or make them and stuff like that. So if you wanted to, very handy things to have. And again, these are little tools where you never think you use them. When you start to use them, boy do you use them. You don't tend to use anything else. Okay, in my first mug we've got various tiny little tweezers. Okay, these are normal, tiny little photo etch holding tweezers. Okay, got tiny ones, and they've got various. So I've got one here. These have got little flat ends. We've got hooked ones, but the points on these are lethally sharp, so they're great for this type of thing. And to be honest, I just stand them on here like that. And I've got other ones down here as well, which I've never even taken out of the packet yet. You can never have enough tweezers because they just work well all the way through. In here again, Sharpie, red. This is for doing doors on Navy aircraft. So think Tomcats, Hornets, Intruders. They have the red bars all the way around the edges so they can see if the doors are closed or not. This is what it's all about, okay? You can just run it around with those. 2 coats, good to go, and you don't have to paint it. So much cleaner than messing around with anything else. We've got a couple of skinny sticks in there we'll talk about. We've got a couple of these. These are these Teflon putty applicators or super glue applicators, which is by Guns, I do believe. They do those, which they're okay. Okay, next one is my Big Bird Sesame Street one. This has got things like pickup sticks. Okay, these are rhinestone pickup sticks. Again, you can pick these up. I think a pack is £1. And you get like 12 in a pack. They are dirt cheap, but basically it's a wax pencil. But all it is, it's designed for picking up rhinestones. So those little tiny jewels, you just come along and they stick to the wax and you go. When they lose the bite, you just sharpen it and go again. What we use them for though is photo etch, because you can just stick a little bit on there, photo etch. You come along, pop it on, you can hold it on there, place it where exactly you want it. It's exactly the same principle. Down in here, we've got these guys. Oh, let's move this over here a bit. These are chisels. Again, this is the old Master Tools chisels. Lethally sharp, as you can see. Horrendous. We've done a full review on these. To be honest, there's pretty much reviews on all of these products. Just pop onto the Flory Models website and go in the review section, and it'll be in the tools part. I've got various shapes and sizes in there like that. These are like old friends, because these are my knives I used to use in the early days when we were doing it. This one here is probably circa 2000 to 2010 before we switched over to a bit more professional knives, but this is what I used, just cheap disposable knives. Again, you don't need to spend a fortune on these things. And then we've got, as you can imagine, skinny standers and stuff like that. So, you know, as I said, it's a harp-on thing, but obviously I do a range of foam-based skinny standers as well as their larger counterparts. So this is the skinny version of this, great for getting in to those hard to reach areas. And obviously this one here, which is our sander polisher. This is the skinny version of it, as you can see down there. And then in amongst all of this, we've got various skinny sticks in various grits and grades, as we see them down here. It's sort of my overflow pile of them. So we've actually got sanding sticks and all of those things, they all live in there. And to be honest with you, that's what's right behind it, Darth Vader as well. We've got obviously polisher, quite a new polisher, and we've got all the little skinny sticks and various things down in here, all the different grits and grades, as you might imagine, that I carry. It's all just in there, so it's a handy thing to have. Next up, paintbrushes. As we all know, I don't use expensive paintbrushes, so this is just my paintbrush thing. Various sizes. Some of them I know have got metallizers on them, and some of them, as you'll see, have got little bits of tape around them. It's just to denote that says don't use decaling with that one. And then this one has got, but it's got the overspray. It means do decaling with this one because it's nice and clean, because that's all I use it for. But I am definitely not a, you know, the old Winsor & Newton Series 7, as the guys know. I do tend to just literally cheap brushes, well, not cheap. My favourite ones, to be honest, are creative models. They do a sable and a synthetic one. I just tend to use those. They work really, really well with no problem at all. Down on here, we speak about this guy a lot. It's more to do with painting than being on here, but this is the tool. This opens up obviously all your types of paints. You just pop it on and it's a bit of wrong end. That's it. It just does leverage. It's designed for both. One end is guns, one end is Tamiya. So if you notice this one, oh, it does go on there as well, but one end fits the other one better. Okay, the other thing as well, it's got a little T-part in here. So if you've got the ones with the bladed tops, the older guns ones, you can just put it in the top and do it. And then obviously you can use it as a stand as well with the T-top one, so it's not leaning over and it pops in. Again, really, really handy type of thing to have. So that's pretty much that. And that's about it for down here. I've got 3 workstations which are all identical to this. So we have this one here. I have one dead opposite me, which is where I tend to do my cutting and sanding and cleaning up and those types of things before they come over here. And like over there at the moment, there's a lot of photo etch. We've got all the extra parts and that's all lined down there. So it's like sub-assemblies as they're not on camera. So when they're not on camera, I move them on, put them over there. And then to be honest, as you guys know, do the lifestyle, we've got another one roughly where you are, just down there as well. So from that point of view, it just gives me the option of 3. But when you're working on projects, you know what it's like. We all push it to the edges, and before you know it, we've taken up all the room. Okay, so you're not going to be able to have that workstation operational and using. But other times we have guys down here who come in for airbrushing and for building. Then everyone gets their own little spot in comfort as they make their way through. So what we'll do is, because this one's gone on quite a bit longer than I thought it was going to, I will show you the paint rack cupboard as a separate down below, and we'll talk about the paints and why they're in the background and not used as much, rather than trying to sort of put this on to be a big huge one, because that would probably be more to do with the paint one, which is going to come up next. So there we go, that is my tools and work area.
So there you go, that's tool time number 3. As I said, I will get the review done for the paint shaker. We'll probably do it on Thursday, but to be honest, I've got quite a lot on this week, and we sort of run out today as we make our way through. So there we go, that's the tools, the bits and pieces, and now I've got to put it all back together. But to give you guys a bit of an insight, this is what it looks from where I sit looking across. As you can see it all down there like that, and there's that screen, which as you can see, you're like, hello, you can see it down underneath there just like that. All right, so there we go. I hope you're enjoying these little looks or insights into what I do, the reasons I've got it. I'm trying to show you why I have things and why I use them, and perhaps why I don't use a lot of the stuff as well. But as I said, next time what we'll do is next week we'll have a look at the actual spray booth setup. I know we've covered it, but we didn't really look at what's below it and what's above it. And at the same time, we'll have a look at that paint rack down at the other end. So that's about it from me today. I'll catch you all tomorrow. So happy modelling. Take care.